Welcome back, everyone. We're going to process out our afternoon activity. So I'm going to hand the mic over to Asha.
So we are heading to debriefing activity. I'll just share my screen quickly to go through the questions again. Or have you guys like prepared anything to share? Like, how would you like to go about it? Anybody, any suggestion?
I would recommend we go by team. So, which is how we normally do it. So, so you can either decide the order, Asha, or you can ask them to volunteer by team.
Yeah.
Thank you, James, for the reminder. We usually have one rep by team, and that person presents, and sometimes they'll bring others with them. So if you just make a call out for who would like to go first, that usually works pretty well.
Yeah, that's how we'll do. So any, like, whoever would like to go first, please, just join.
Let's, so we actually have to put them on screen. So, okay, thank you, Gia. Gia would like to go first. I'll go ahead and add a spotlight. Gia, please make sure we know which group you are in.
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna present first. Our group is Fufu, Matteo, Ariana, and me. And in the morning, we're dealing with the data file. And one of the hurdles we met when we prepared the data is we use a lot of time to understand the meaning of each variable correctly. The reason why we do that, because we believe understand the meaning of each variable is important for selecting the prediction model, the prediction model for next step. So we check the code book, we consult with Asha to understand the variable and to select which variable we prefer to use, and to predict, and then in the afternoon to predict the missing variable in GPA. We use the random forest as a model to build up a prediction. Because the time is very limited, we just choose 7 predictors variable. We are very interested in students feeling when the variables related to student feeling in their school, such as frequency they feel a part of the school, they feel they choose they feel they part of the people they are studying together, that these variables. And also we were interested in PPVT score, which is a standardized score to test the students vocabulary in each round. And then we build up the random tree, and the target variable for sure is we only have time to predict, to fill out the missing variable of GPA. Then we predict all the missing GPA and fill it out. That's so far we completed, but for the further steps, we expected to add more variables to perfect predictive model. That's what we did for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Gia. That's fantastic. So next up, we have group Tuozafi, represented by Nina.
Thank you very much. I'm the representative from my group. So my partner and I weren't able to retrieve the data from Princeton, so we used the example prepared data that was provided. Right, yeah, so we spent a considerable bit of time going through trying to understand what the variables mean, so that we can, really even begin to understand what we're about to test and process. That led us to find the metadata and really read through the code book, the Excel file with the code book, and get, more of a sense of what it is that we're going through, what we're studying. When we felt that we had a gist of, what we're about to study, then we realized, okay, we're not too sure how to approach this in R, but we are fairly confident how to approach it in Stata. So we both used Stata and followed the instructions and ran up to the prediction models. There were slight differences with what we did with Stata and R, what we would end up doing in R, because, the packages are different and some instructions are different and so on. So there are some processes we did in Stata that I won't mention, but suffice it to say, we used Stata first, and that helped us to really glean and, make sure variables were doing what they were supposed to. And in particular, we transformed the variables pertaining to eviction, material hardship, and job training to make those integer variables so they would run properly in our models. So then after that, we progressed to R after we run and saw our coefficients and saw our results of our predictions. We went into R and did the same. So the major challenge then would just be figuring out what code would produce the same thing, which eventually we figured out. And we ran a linear as well as a logistic regression model. And, did our interpretations. And then from there, with the assistance of the TAs, we also did our predictions and we plot a few graphs. If time allows, I can show some of the.
Time allows, please show.
Okay. Let me pull. Okay, share screen. Share screen, our studio. So just because the first time we figured it out. So you'll see here some of the different results and so residual versus fitted. So this is as far as we got, and we haven't necessarily worked out what each visualization is telling us and those kinds of details, but we did manage to create these. So yeah. How far do you want me to go in terms of answering the other questions?
Go. You got the floor.
Stop sharing and try to find other questions. Okay, so yeah, I think I explained how we did the unexpected hurdles and prediction models. Okay, so mass collaboration was very, very key in what we did. Kevin was my partner, Kevin S. He has econ background, I have social work background. We've probably already said this a couple of times in the internship, but it really has helped us to have these conversations and bring in different points and different approaches to how we conceptualize and, therefore how we process the data. So that's been quite useful. And what helps in that regard is just, when we have clear guidelines on what we're to do. So all we need to figure out then is the different content that people bring or the different strengths are. So that helps when we have a clear guideline, which we felt we did. We had a step-by-step. So we were able to do that, and we had the platform with which to use. So that was fine. Questions better tackled alone than together. Well, I just mentioned that we were doing some cross-disciplinary discussion. So that in itself, indicates that some of these questions can be answered better when we have different groups and a transdisciplinary kind of approach. That helps us, especially since we have different styles within which we approach research or even approach how we conduct experiments, how we run on and validate our models, and how we approach policymaking questions. So yeah, That's me for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Who wants to go next? Which team do we have up next? So we've got Joliffe Rice, Red, Kelawele, and Banku left. Who wants to go next?
Okay. I can go next.
Thank you.
Okay, so I worked on the same team with Rohita and Joanna. So initially we struggled with getting the data. Only Rohita has the data in the group. So later we managed to get the data. Then we looked at the data, the one that is now cleaned. We tried to understand what was in the data. So we used the code book, went through the code book, understand some weren't clear to me personally. So I struggled a lot with that. The code book thing. It's actually the first time I'm looking at code book that way. So yeah, I learned a lot from that. But looking at the code book gave me the sense of, well, how I might clean up the data. So we started cleaning up the data in R, and we discussed a lot of things, a lot of variables, how the code was created in order to understand how to clean that. But then we had no enough time. So, and I'm very much comfortable with Python than R. So, I mean, Joanna was also very comfortable with Python and R. As on the way, we decided to, you know what, let's just go straight to Python and do this. So yeah, but looking at the code book and looking at the metadata gave us sense of what we want to do. So we decided to, since we've managed to gain a little bit of sense from the code book and try cleaning the data, we decided to use the example already cleaned to just build a model in Python. So we decided to go for random forest for two reasons. One, random forest is very good with mixed variables when data is integer. You know, any type of variable can work with random forest compared to like other models. So we decided to go there and use random forest. So we first of all separated the data and make sure that we have one for training, one for validation. And also we intend to pretend the missing values from the GPA. That is what we focused on. So we built random forest. So I was building the model. Joanna was very helpful in contributing to what we can focus on, if we should use all the variable or not. In the end, we decided to throw in all the variables and not to, you know, do some selection. So we looked at the statistics before we made that decision. We noted that when we selected the GPA to predict the GPA, we found out that we don't have so much missing variable for the rows that correspond to where GPA is not missing for training purposes. So we decided to go with all the variables since we do not have so much missing variables in that. So we created random forest, created the first predictor, then we didn't have much time. Then along the side, we had a lot of discussion, and I believe that is what is more important in this case, because Joanna already have some few knowledge of machine learning. For me, what was more important to me is not just creating the model, because that is what I do every day, but then understanding the translation from the code book to the model, gaining insight from there, because I've never really worked with that kind of data. Yeah, so that's with Joanna's explanation, and Rohita, when she dropped off a little bit later, but she was very helpful in explaining to me the code book. So yeah, we gain a lot of insight, but unfortunately, our insight is not necessarily in the prediction of the model, but in understanding how the code book was used to formulate the data we use in training the model, because that is where my interest is. And so we shared a lot in that area. Thank you. That is what we did in general.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And I love all the hashtags we were getting about Jollof Wars. So Jollof Rice Wars. If you didn't know, is it Kevin or James who's going to cook for all of us? We've been invited to one of their houses. Can't remember who. It was Kevin. Kevin's cooking for all of us. Party at Kevin's house. Okay, who's up next? We've got, let's drop that spotlight. We've got Red, Kelawele, and Banku. Who is up next? Red, Kelawele, and Banku.
I think Red can go.
Great, okay, let's see. Thanks, James.
And I think Mango is going to start, and then I'll chime in as she goes along.
Yeah, hi, I was in Red.
Oh, how'd that happen? You were supposed to be in Banku. How did that happen?
A wind carried me.
Okay, all right. So continue.
I was in Red with James, Hoel, and Jacqueline. And so we also did have like initially some trouble getting the data, but eventually everybody got the data. And actually a lot of, what do we do? Hoel was very good at guiding the rest of us through this process. So the first one is, we didn't get enough time to like do the data cleaning, but we discussed about the code. And so it's something that we're gonna try in our own personal time, but we do, I believe, understand how to go about cleaning the data. So we just jumped right ahead into kind of trying to see how we can like do the prediction modeling. I think just like everybody, we did create two separate data sets. First, we had the training set and then the validating set. And we realized that we did not have predictors, that we only had outcomes initially from the example data set that was there. So we chose some of the predictor variables that included, like mother's race, mother's education, I think poverty and things like that. And GPA was a Y variable. And we kind of did manage, we used, for our model, we used XGBoost. Yeah, and we did do some analysis, but I'll let James take over.
I think she said it all. I just need to chime in and add something little. Basically with the XGBoost, with what we had gone on working on, we later noticed that because we were not sure about the kind of predictors we were looking at, we had to go back and do the selection of those predictors. So basically we started off with a linear regression, which did not tell us a lot of information, but because all of us in the room had interest in knowing what the summary was, we ran an over on that also to get some insight. And then with the XGBoost, we were still having challenges. We had to go back to go read the article they had, and we're out of time. So we are still hoping to fix the XGBoost code and then at least be able to see the outcome from a different perspective other than the linear regression. But that's where we were, and we had to come in. We did face challenges in getting the data, but we're thankful we had Hoel, and he had some experience and was able to guide us through the aspects of the exercise that. So I think overall, in terms of success, we all got somewhere. We got our hands dirty, and we're able to get a feel of what machine learning feels like, which I think it's really interesting. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And I think you all know this by now. We judge success in all sorts of different ways. It isn't necessarily that you completely completed the task. We just want you to try, okay, and learn together. So we have two teams left. We've got, let's see, Kelawele.
I can go.
Banku. Great, thank you so much.
Kelawele. Okay, so we I have some things I can show real quick. We basically decided to just test whether we believe that this variable CM1 ethnic race maybe is saying like the sort of like male caretaker. We wanted to test whether or not as the independent variable related at all with the connectedness at school for students. And so I have like just some, I could show this preview real quick. This is just our, we first just ran a regression model, just like, you know, cleanly. And so relative to the baseline, which was, we had to rerun this as like reordering the factors because it was weird. White wasn't the baseline, but as the baseline of a Black male caretaker, it appeared that there was a increase in one's likelihood to feel a connectedness at school, and that was significant. And we also had a significant variable when it came to white relative to the baseline of a Black caretaker. So that was an interesting finding. And when we did rerun this, changing the factors, it was the same thing. So we would be interested in exploring that more. And then just to try it, we just like ran this same model, but with fixed effects for whether or not they were evicted in the prior year. It's the lagged variable here, and it was largely the same effect that we had seen, or result that we had seen. So yeah, it was interesting. We were definitely interested in sort of figuring out a better way to sort of like run this, maybe using some of the machine learning techniques. But yeah.
Thank you. It's so interesting to hear all the different experiences and outcomes. And just as a reminder, rest of your lives, keep working on this. So, we're meant to get you sort of warmed up and interested and excited and give you those initial tools so that you can hopefully work with each other with our funding and do great things. So I'm going to pass it back to Asha, who's going to close us out, and then I will do some logistics.
I just wanted to say that, last year I was part of the Summer Institute, and I so appreciate how well you have done during this activity. Having gone through myself, I know the time, pressure that you undergo during this time, and there's so many components of this activity that you need to bring it together within such short span of time. And you also want to kind of, achieve and, share something with the group, like something bigger, something really substantive. All of that, is going through your thought process. So it's a lot to go through within short time. But while I was like going through all the breakout rooms, I realized that, each and every one of you did such fantastic job. And within 15, 20 minutes, you were ready with the data set and everything, and you were building your models. So that was remarkable. And if you feel that you haven't been able to done enough, like I had gone through this feeling, and all my cohort mate had gone through this feeling during the Summer Institute, but it all just comes back later. So that's all I would say, that, you would take it back and use it in your research, in your studies, in whatever you are doing. So wonderful. Thank you so much.
And Asha, can you tell us what level of background information on computational social science and this type of stuff did you have before you joined us last summer?
Oh, that's a brilliant question. Yeah, even while applying, thinking that, do I fit in here in this Summer Institute? But just because I had taken one class, I was like, no, I want to do this, but let me try my luck. And when I got through, I was like, wow. And when I was there, I was like, maybe I'm the only in the room who doesn't know anything about R or, any of the programming languages, anything. And I was doing text analysis, sentiment analysis at the Summer Institute. That was first time ever. And 12 months forward, today I'm submitting a paper on sentiment analysis. So you can imagine, like, from zero to hero.
I love that. That's a beautiful way to end this session. We are going to take a 15-minute break, and then I will do logistics, and we'll do our data assurance. So we have one of the representatives from Princeton joining us. It's important for them to be able to talk to you and know that you get the message that the data needs to be deleted and stuff, please. Yeah, so we'll do logistics. I'm saying 15 minutes, it'll probably be like 5. So please head back to your rooms. I'm reopening the breakout rooms.
Thank you all for watching. For more information on SICSS-Howard Mathematica, visit our website, follow us on social media, and join our email list.